Hello, ladies. I hope all is well. So, one of the things that I wanted to talk about was, I've watched a lot of videos. I've worked with a lot of different people. And one of the things that's really important to me is to be really authentic, and be really honest. And so, one of the things that I wanted to share with you today was even though I have done so much work on myself and I've evolved and changed so much, even at this stage, I learn new stuff about myself all the time. And one of the things that I've recently discovered, which I didn't really know was the case, was that I am emotionally unavailable. And I wanted to share this with you today because I honestly didn't know this was the case. Um, so recently, I did a book called The Fall, Mr. Unavailable and the Fallback Girl. And what the book talks about is we end up in relationships with people, it could be men or women, that um, they they disappear. They emotionally are unavailable themselves. And we keep thinking, like, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? Like, they call, then they don't call, or they won't make plans with you till the last second, or they are, they blame you for things, or they won't have deep conversations with you. And there's all of these, you're emotionally running high and low, and like you're always chasing the high at some level. And sometimes you can honestly feel like you're crazy and like you're addicted to this person, and you don't behave this way sometimes with anybody else, but it could be one relationship that's doing it in your life, or it could be a pattern that you've had that you've never even really even noticed that you had. And as I said, as I've evolved on peeling the onion and doing more and more different things and learning about myself, I have really come up against this one recently. And I wanted to kind of share a little bit about what I've learned and what I've experienced and what I'm doing to move through it. So, what I did was I went back in my history of relationships, romantic relationships, and I discovered as far back as I could go into my teen years that I had these tendencies to have like third party stuff, or be in situations with dating people that like I don't even want to be with this person, or I don't even want to be around this person, but yet I still end up here, or like chasing relationships that have like all this drama in them, or like they're dating somebody else and I'm part of the equation, or I was dating somebody else that I really, really, truly cared about, like I really thought that I loved, yet I was also seeing somebody else that I really wasn't in love with, and I was so consumed with how they felt. And the other thing that I noticed, it was all of my boyfriends had dumped me and then all came back to me. Like it was almost like they didn't know my worth. Well, how would they know my worth? I didn't even know my own worth. But then they would come back. And then like they would realize like now I had value or something. I'm not sure. But I noticed like there was a pattern going on. And then I started to move through even my relationships in later years. And I had a tendency to date guys, and I mean no disrespect, that if this is where a good guy sits, a great guy sits, I always went for this guy down here. The one that came from a uh, highly conditioned background, or had issues with drinking, or had issues with self-esteem, or like they just like weren't quality guys to date. Again, they could be great people, but they just weren't quality guys to date. They just couldn't give you anything in a relationship. They didn't know how to communicate. They weren't in touch with their feelings. They had never done any work on themselves. And again, I was down here. And what I realized was they never could really hurt me, or they fed into my world of disappointment, because I grew up in a childhood where I was always disappointed. So I started seeking out men that I was always disappointed, that they didn't love me the way that I wanted, or they didn't care about me the way that I wanted, or they didn't give me the attention that I wanted, or they would flake on me all the time, or they would dump me for somebody else, or that one happened all the time. And then it would make me go into the story of like, well, I'm not enough, or I'm not pretty enough, or I'm not smart enough. And I have my earbuds in again. Um, but I would keep like going into this negative loop about myself, and that I was lacking, and that I was never enough, and I was never good enough. But I was attracting people and men into my life that were vibing at the same like low level down here that I was putting out. And then I think my people pleasing really ramped up, because I was like, well, I can't seem to find somebody of decent quality. So I'm going to outsource this now to other people and see what they think. And if this guy checks off their boxes, then they're good, which didn't really work either. It's at some level, because they were looking for things that were important to them, like they had a great job, or they made a good amount of money, or that they were X, Y, and Z on their list. But yet I didn't even really have a list, but it still didn't match whatever it was that I was looking for. I still wasn't. But what I started noticing was that I was kept searching for them to feel something towards me that I was really desiring to feel within myself. I was outsourcing and trying to get them to fill into my cup. But the reality was, I was emotionally numb, and I didn't know my self worth. I didn't have good self esteem, and I definitely lacked self confidence. So it became like this really interesting space. And even when I started to think back of my husband, who I have now really discovered, oh, now I know why I kept asking for a divorce every other year, was because he's emotionally unavailable. And so am I. And that was part of, for a long time, that's why it worked, was because I'm really not going to ask too much of you emotionally, and you're not going to really ask too much of me emotionally. But then as I got healthier and healthier, I felt more of the next level of like, I want more out of my relationship than this. This isn't working anymore. And I would every other year ask for a divorce, until I finally asked for a separation, and got a way to heal and work on a bunch of stuff myself. Now, I still didn't realize at that point in time that I was unemotionally available until, like I said, very recently. So what I've now discovered is, okay, I was searching for him to be somebody he's not. Again, I lived in the land also of rosy glasses, and I outsourced everything. And now it's like, so we're unable to have conversations of depth. We're unable to have conversations about our emotions. We're unable to connect at a deeper level. And so I'm left with like this feeling of incompletion in my marriage, and I'm learning to fill myself up more and more and more, but it's making it more and more obvious like, this is an area of my life and myself that I really want to right the ship on and heal. And it's been challenging. And I've had another relationship in my life that I really needed to look at and take some massive rosy glasses off with, for sure. And I have a tendency to see people's potential versus who they truly are, and what their word and deed are they matching. Is their action um, fostering a positive, healthy relationship, or is it sending me into an emotional spiral? And when I even looked back at my relationship with my husband, he wouldn't make plans with me until the night before. And it was like he'd call when he felt like it. And like again, I was like, oh my God, the patterns and all of it was right there. But I didn't see it at the time. Again, I didn't know my own self-worth. I didn't have any self-esteem at all. I lived in this massive world that I wasn't enough. I mean, again, I've only gained that in like the last 2 years, and it builds all the time. So even at 50, we still can have this stuff going on. And we feel like sometimes, at least I have felt like sometimes, like, seriously, I'm still dealing with this stuff at this age? Like, come on. But what comes into play is sometimes it's a case of it's easier to see that, like, what I experienced was I wanted him to change. I wanted him to do this. I wanted him to do that. I wanted him to stop this behavior. I wanted him to change this behavior. I wanted him to do all this stuff. But the truth of the matter was, he doesn't have to change if he doesn't want to. He has free will. And I can wish, want, and hope that to be the case, but he has the right not to change whatsoever. The only person that I'm responsible to change is me. The only person I'm responsible to heal is me. And if I heal me and this doesn't work, then it's okay that I love me and him enough to let this go and stop living in a world of dissatisfaction in something that I know emotionally we can't ever get to what I'm hoping it to be, just because I hope it want to be, I want it to be, because I don't want to go through that difficulty, or I don't want to, sever something. The reality is, you know, sometimes we do need to sever those things and to evolve and grow and to heal. And I don't know what's going to come of this situation. But what I do know is that I've reached a point in my life where I want to be I want to feel love within myself, and I want to feel love from somebody that isn't going to put me on this emotional high, isn't going to manipulate me with their words, isn't going to manipulate me with their actions or play off of my insecurities, or not support me 100% in my own growth and healing, that hasn't done the work for themselves. Like, I'm at a point in my life where I'm choosing that for the next chapter, these are the things that are really important to me. And I'm willing to do the work to have that type of love, to have that in the next chapter. Because again, I'm at 50 years old, and you might be feeling the same way, where it's like, I'm in this marriage. I've been here for whatever, 16 years, 15 years, 20 years. And it's not getting better, it's getting worse, and I'm miserable, and I'm emotionally eating, and I feel like I'm at the lowest of low, and I can't seem to figure out why this rut is happening, or why do I keep ending up in this situation, or like, what do I even do? Like, I don't even know what to do. And I think one of the things is to, especially if you have a tendency to be a people pleaser, or you have a tendency to outsource everything and things like that. And I'm not saying that you're not emotionally unavailable, but it might be something to look into to see if that's the case. There's a lot of videos about this out there. And I've decided that I'm going to seek out professional help to help me work through it. And and understand where it comes from. And so many people will tell you it comes from your childhood. So if you grew up sometimes in a childhood where like you were given love and it was taken away, or it was full of drama, or it was full of emotional highs and lows, or if nothing was stable, it's what you know love to be. It's not what love really is. It's just what you've been told and seen and mirrored. And we usually do what we mirror. We are the mirrors of what our parents did. And we might be not 100% like them, but we have maybe our own version of it. And, you know, and having this awareness of being like, okay, now I understand why I was doing those behaviors. Now I can start putting the dots together. And I'm sharing this with you and being this vulnerable with you because I think it's so important to know what other people are going through. Because, like I've said 1,000 times before, I felt so alone when I was going through it. And now I'm going through something new and I'm learning something new. And I want to share what I've learned and experienced. And again, some of this stuff, it's like, it's really hijacking my nervous system, and it's really causing me to want to emotionally eat. And I'm choosing not to and feel the feels. But even with all the work that I've done, this is like really set me off because it's also exposed me to that sense of like, yeah, I moved out and I lived on my own for 3 years. So it's not like I can't do it. But there also comes like, there's also these fears of your childhood or fears from your inner children of maybe abandonment or being alone and not being able to make it, or feeling insecure about certain aspects of yourself, or like different things that are sitting kind of under the surface in a different area that now get highlighted through this whole process. And you start to experience all these emotions, and your nervous system is getting out of regulation. And it actually kind of reminded me a little bit of when I first started to move out of my people pleasing behaviors. It was like when I said no and I'd have to deal with that emotion of it all, it was kind of familiar like that. And one of the other things too is if you experience this, you might want to look into also about um, different ways that people regulate their emotions and when you're dysregulated versus regulated, and how breathing can help with that. Because it's one of the things like I've been saying to myself, like every day since I've kind of really started to dig into this more, I'm safe. I love me. I am safe. I am safe. I belong here. I am safe. And just breathe into that and be like, okay, emotions are just clouds. Like you're going to feel them. They're going to be really uncomfortable. They're here for a reason, and then they're going to pass. And then the next ones will come through. Breathe. You don't need to medicate yourself with food. You don't need to numb out. You can handle this. You can handle this. I've got this. And I just would breathe through it. And I've had to do this quite a bit because I've had a lot brewing and showing up for me to heal and move through to get to that next level. So if you're going through this, please know you're not alone. Like I said, there's a lot of really great information out there. And know that, if it's something that you're tired of doing or experiencing, and it has, it's not just one link in a chain. It goes probably really deep, and it goes into a lot of the behaviors that you're doing that are keeping you in loops that are unhealthy for yourself. That, if you can get to the bottom of it, it can really radically change your life. And so if you need to seek out professional help to do this, do that. Like I said, there's a lot of videos out there just to kind of give you some general information. But when you're dealing with regulation and dysregulation of your nervous system, it can be super overwhelming. And like I said, even for myself, and I've done a ton of stuff, like I'm even seeking out someone that can professionally help me with this because it's so important to do it properly, so we don't do more harm than good when we we go there. So I hope this video was helpful for you. And like I said, if you've got comments, please list them below. If this video is helpful, please like it. And if you want more information on me to do more information on certain things that you're going through that maybe I've related to that would be helpful for you, please also list those below. And I hope that you seek out whatever resources that you need to move through this, because you're here for a reason, and your life and you are valuable. And we are here to have a joyful life. And yes, sometimes we've got to go through the muck and figure things out and undo conditioning. But at the end of the day, what we receive on the other side of that coin, I know is worth it from all of that I've experienced thus far on my journey. And I'm in it with you. I am in it with you, and we will get through this. And I am here to support you in however I can. And if I can do it, you can do it too, if you so choose to. And if not now, you have to just decide, when are you going to choose yourself? And what do you really want your long-term goals to be? Do you want happiness, or and you have to go through a little uncomfortability to get there, or a lot of uncomfortability to get there? But like I said, the mud starts here in the beginning, and it gets lower and lower and lower. And the more tools you learn, and the more techniques you do, and the more audiobooks you listen to, and all these different things, it makes this so much more manageable. And at the end of the day, self-love is the best love. It is the medicine of the soul, and you are so worth it. So have a wonderful day. I hope this was helpful.